Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. We got a great one for you today. We did this on a client site recently and they loved it. It's a little animated button that's really going to grab attention up there. As you can see, it's bouncing up and down, it's changing color. You're not going to miss that on a page. Really easy to do. We've made this button a custom button so we can have two lines on it as well. And if you hover over it, it's going to stop. So give them a chance to click on it, do what they want to do. Really easy to do, so let's get started. I'm going to enable my visual builder. Once enabled, let's go down. I've got a section here, blue tab. Inside I've got a row, one column slightly bigger than the other. I've got my large text in the left hand side. And let's get rid of our little custom button. And I've got a little code module in there as well. Okay, let's add a new module to this column. Like I say, I'm not going to use a button module for this today. I'm going to use a text module so we can have two lines of text. There's a text module. And in the text, I think I said, get 50% off. And then underneath, I'm doing shift space, so there'll be tight shift in the return, I should say. So it's a single line break there. And let's do this in caps. And perhaps make it bold just for fun. Let's stick an exclamation mark on the end. Great. Well, there we go. It doesn't look much like a button. Let's just put a little link in there. Obviously, you're going to want to take your people somewhere when they click on it. Just put whatever link you want in there. Always best practice if you're linking to your own site, leave it in the same window. If you're linking off-site to somebody else's, open it in a new tab. That way your site's going to stay open. Let's throw in perhaps a red background just so you can see what's going on. So there we have it. Let's make that writing a little more legible by hitting the little pencil associated with it. Take us right there. I'm going to leave it on the default. Let's perhaps make it semi-bold and make it white in color. A little bit bigger. Let's try 20 pixels, something like that. Whatever works for you. I'm going to roll down. I am going to give it a bit of text shadow. It just makes it stand out a little bit more on that background there. And I want my text to be in the middle. Okay, to turn this into a round button, we need to make it square first. So we can do that in sizing with height and width. So if we roll down, here's our sizing. Let's try giving it 150 pixels, 150px. Make sure you put on the px on the end there, or it'll try to put in a percentage value for you. I'm going to copy that, Control C, and I'm going to paste it in the height down below here. So we should have a square. Fantastic. Now, once we've got a square, we can turn it into a circle very easily by giving it a border radius. But the first thing we want to do is push down our text so it's where we want it. We don't want it at the top there. So let's close up our sizing. We'll go into spacing just down below and use a bit of padding top to push this down. Let's start off with perhaps 50 and see what we need to do from there. That's actually not too bad. I'm going to leave it just like that. And to make it round, like I say, we can go into the border just down below. This will be checked by default, so it'll do all four corners at once. We're going to change it from 0 pix to 50 and the percent sign. Once you do that, you've got a nice round button. And I want it to line up a little bit more with our writing, so I'm going to give it a little bit of negative margin on the top, maybe 10, 20 pixels, just so it's more in line with our writing there. So if we close up our border now, we'll go back up to our spacing. Margins on the top here. Let's try negative value with margin is going to pull it upwards. And you can have negative values with margin, but you can't with padding. So let's try negative 20 pixels. Not too bad, maybe a little bit much. Let's try 15. I think that's about right. Great, well, let's animate this thing. So I'm going to save the changes here. Let's add a new module just under our button. I'm going to use a code module today. You can use the CSS panel for this if you want to. And with code modules, you can put them pretty much anywhere on the page you want. But remember, it'll only work on this page if we're using a code module. So let's do that. I'm going to throw it straight underneath our button here. Add new module. There's a code module. And you may have noticed as I'm building this, it's adjusting the sizing on our section here, and I've already taken the padding away from the bottom of the section, or most of it anyway, so that we've got constant space above and below there. And that was just using spacing, obviously. We've got to tell this code module that we're writing CSS code. So we're going to open some style tags, and style tags, the left pointing bracket, the word style, S-T-Y-L-E, and right pointing bracket. Once you do that, it'll put in the closing style bracket for you. Put a bit of space between them, and we can start writing some CSS. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is come up with a class name. I'm just going to call mine bounce. When we write code, all class names have a dot or a period in front of them. So there's the dot, and let's call it bounce. Now we open and close some curly brackets. Inside, we can tell it what we want to do. Well, I'm going to create an animation so it jumps up and down a little bit. So I'm going to say animation. Then we'll give it a name. We'll call it bounce, so we may as well use bounce. I'm going to have mine last for perhaps 2 seconds, 2s, and it wants to be infinite, keep going and going and going. I am going to add a line of code in a minute so it stops on hover though. And we'll put a little semicolon in the end. Always put a semicolon in the end. If you write a new line of code after that within the curly brackets and don't put one in, it will not read the next line of code. Great, so we need to create this animation that we call bounce now. We're going to use keyframes for that. So let's go down a bit from our curly bracket here, still inside our style tags. And we're using keyframes, so we have to say at keyframes. Then the name that we gave it, which is bounce. Now we know when we close some more curly brackets, decide what we want to do with it. Well, initially, when the page loads, I want it to be in the normal position. So that would be 0% when the page loads, basically beginning of second 1 of our 2 seconds up there. I'm going to use transform translate for this. So let's open some more curly brackets now. I'm going to say transform, colon, translate. We wanted it to do around the y-axis, so let's put a capital Y on the end of there. And I want it to be in normal position, which would be don't move it at all. So some round brackets at the end here, we can just put a 0 in. Perfect. Now I'm also going to have the background change color for a bit of extra drama. So let's put a little semicolon right after our round brackets there. And I'm just going to say background, B-A-C-K-G-R-O-U-N-D. And I'm just going to use a web color, put in whatever color you want. You may have noticed it slightly changed hue of red there, but I'm going to use red and orange on mine. Now to make this bounce up and down, I'm going to go to sort of 40% and 60% and use my translate Y on that. So let's do that. I'm going to copy everything from the 0% to our first curly bracket there. Control C to copy. I'm going to drop down and paste it in below. I'm going to say perhaps 40% and change these timings to what works for you. I'm going to say transform translate Y, which will make it jump up a bit. I'm going to do negative 25 pixels on this first one, negative 25 px. And for more drama, just make it a bigger number. And the background, I'm going to change from red perhaps to orange when it gets to that point. Fantastic. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to do a similar thing, perhaps at 60%. Control C. Going to drop down again. Let's change that 40 to a 60%. And I'm only going to let this one come up maybe by 15 pixels. So it's going to bounce high at 25, then not as high on the 15. And again, I'm going to keep that background orange. But in between these, I want it to bounce back to 0. So we can separate some values here rather than writing a line for each of them. So at 0, comma, and 20%, comma, and 50%, comma, 80%, and finally at 100%, which is the end of second 2 of our 2 seconds up there. So comma, 100%. Great. So at 0 and 20, it's going to stay where it is. So there'll be a bit of a pause at the beginning. At 40, it's going to jump up by 25 pixels. 50, it's going to jump back down to 0. 60, it's going to jump up by 15 pixels. 80, it's going to jump back down. And it's going to stay there until 100%. Okay. And all we need to do to make this jump up and down there is give it the class name of bounce, and it should work for us. So let's copy that. When we apply it to a module as a CSS class name, we do not need the dot. When we write it as code, we need that dot up there. So I'm going to copy the bounce without the dot, Control C. Let's save our little code module right there. We'll go into the button now, give it that class name. It should start bouncing. Advanced, CSS IDs and classes. Make sure you put it in the class, not the ID. It will not work in the ID. As you can see, our button started to bounce up and down there. Perfect. But when they hover over it, I want it to stop doing that. I don't want it to keep bouncing when they got their mouse on it. So to achieve that, we can just add another line of code really easily, and we're done. So let's save our text settings there. I'm going to go back into the code module, which is just down below here. I'm going to copy from the dot of bounce all the way down to our first ending curly bracket there, Control C. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to paste it back in there. Right on the end of E with no gap, I'm going to put a little colon and the word hover, no gaps. It's all one word, bounce, colon, hover. And animation, I'm going to say none, N-O-N-E. Now when we hover over it, it's going to stop. Perfect. Take the mouse off, it'll start doing its thing again. And things like that are really eye-catching. And you can change these numbers around, get it bouncing how you want to get it bouncing. I think that's going to work for me though. They're not going to miss out on that one. Let's make sure this is all going to work on the front end. Save our changes here. Save the page changes. And let's exit the Visual Builder. We'll roll on now. There's our little sail on there with our little animated button. And like I say, that's really attention grabbing. And of course, it'll work just as well on tablet and mobile. If I put my mouse over it, it stops. Perfect. Take my mouse off, it's going to start animating again. Like I say, that's really going to get people's attention. You're not going to notice that on a page if it's going on. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. Don't forget, if you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them for you, or make a little demo video like this one. If you've enjoyed this today, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.